A theatrical cosmology, a Shakespeare solution. Maybe reality isn't a simulation in the strict, accepted sense, but something tantalizingly close. What if all the universe is simply a stage, and sentient beings mere players upon that stage? Bear with me. I know how this sounds. A fool's errand claiming to understand the cosmic machinery. But sometimes fools stumble into truths that sober minds carefully step around. So let me tell you a story. Not because I know it's true, but because it might be, and that possibility alone is worth the telling. Before there was a universe, before time ticked its first second, before matter condensed into the first atom, there existed something that wasn't quite a place and wasn't quite a thing. Call it the stage. Not empty space, that came later. Not a vacuum. Vacuums are something, and this was before something. Not even nothingness, because nothingness is still a concept, and concepts need minds to think them. The stage was the eternal substrate, the foundational realm that exists outside what we call space and what we call time. It simply was, in a way that makes our language stumble and fall. Within this stage, or perhaps as this stage, two forces moved like dancers who've known each other since before memory. The first was the self-organizing principle, the force that gathers scattered things into patterns, that builds complexity from chaos, that takes hydrogen and time and somehow produces Mozart. The second was the entropic principle, the force that dissolves, that randomizes, that returns all elaborate structures back to silence and simplicity. You might think these forces are enemies. They're not. They're partners in the oldest dance there is. Creation requires both of them, the builder and the dissolver, the sculptor and the wind that wears away the sculpture. Life itself emerges in the space between them, like music suspended between tension and release, like a wave that exists only because water rises and falls. From this stage, something else arose. Call it the ether, the primordial medium underlying everything that exists. Not the discredited Victorian notion of a substance filling space, but something stranger and more fundamental. Matter, in this view, is just condensed ether. Energy is excited ether. And consciousness? Consciousness might be patterned resonance within it, like ripples forming interference patterns on a pond. This means the vacuum of space, that supposedly empty nothing between stars, isn't empty at all. It's a living sea of potentiality, pregnant with possibility. Quantum mechanics has been glimpsing this truth for a century now, watching probability waves collapse and vacuum fluctuations appear from nowhere. But physicists see these phenomena indirectly, like watching shadows move behind a curtain and trying to deduce what's casting them. The universe behaves strangely, you see, because we're observing the props instead of the stage machinery. We're watching the play and trying to understand it without realizing there's a backstage, a director, a script. Which brings us to the strangest part of this story. Above, beneath, and throughout the stage exists an organizing intelligence, not a bearded patriarch hurling thunderbolts from clouds. That's just us projecting our father issues onto the cosmos. Something infinitely stranger, a cosmic author, a consciousness capable of shaping reality through intention. Cultures have given this intelligence many names, each one a different finger pointing at the same moon. God, the Great Spirit, the Source, the Dreamer, the Tao, Brahman. The names don't matter. What matters is this. In this framework, the universe isn't a machine that was wound up and set ticking. It's a story being performed into existence, moment by moment, with the audience and the actors being the same thing. We are the universe experiencing itself, as the saying goes. But it's more than that. We're the universe performing itself. Reality as theater. Existence as improvisation. Now, if you're still with me, and I wouldn't blame you for wandering off to check if I've been sampling questionable mushrooms, let me tell you about gravity. Because gravity is where this story gets interesting. Modern physics tells us that gravity is caused by mass-curving spacetime, a bowling ball on a trampoline, bending the fabric, making marbles roll toward it. This explanation is true. It's also incomplete, like teaching a child that wind is caused by trees moving. Not wrong exactly, but not the deeper mechanism. What if gravity is actually the visible artifact of something more fundamental, a field interaction within the ether itself? Stay with me here. Look at magnetism. Magnetism has polarity, north and south, positive and negative, directional asymmetry. You can feel it when you push two magnets together the wrong way, that invisible force pushing back. Magnetism is focused, directional, like a beam of light. Gravity appears weak by comparison. You can overcome Earth's entire gravitational pull by jumping. A refrigerator magnet defeats a planet. But what if gravity only seems weak because it's omnipolar, distributed equally in all directions simultaneously? If magnetism is a focused beam, gravity is the ocean tide. Both might be manipulating the same underlying substrate, just in different ways. Beneath both forces, the same ether, the same fundamental field, different expressions of the same cosmic grammar. This is where the story takes a darker turn, and where a man named Albert Einstein enters our tale. Einstein came dangerously close to understanding all of this. Toward the end of his life, he searched obsessively for a unified field theory, a single elegant framework that would connect gravity, electromagnetism, matter, and spacetime into one coherent whole. The official history says he failed. His final years are portrayed as a tragic decline, a genius who couldn't accept quantum mechanics and wasted his twilight chasing an impossible dream. But what if he didn't fail? What if he succeeded just enough to become frightened? Picture Einstein in his study in Princeton, surrounded by papers covered in equations. He's an old man now, his wild hair gone white, his face carved with lines. He's already watched one of his elegant equations, E equals mc squared, become nuclear fire over Hiroshima and Nagasaki. He understands something that haunts him. Humanity advances technologically faster than it evolves morally. We're children playing with matches in a room full of dynamite. And now, following the mathematics where they lead, he sees something that makes his blood run cold. If gravity could be manipulated directly, not just understood but controlled, then inertia could be canceled. Distance could be folded. Space-time itself could become navigable, like an ocean with currents you could ride. Faster than light travel would follow naturally, not science fiction, engineering, and eventually, inevitably, time manipulation. Not fantasy, not philosophy, engineering. The past would become editable. History itself would become a text you could revise. Imagine it. Wars undone with a tweak of causality. Empires restored by preventing their fall. Assassinations reversed. Entire civilizations rewritten according to ideology, greed, or revenge. Every dictator, every zealot, every wounded soul with access to the technology could reach back and reshape reality according to their vision of how things should have been. Reality would become unstable because causality would become negotiable. The story would eat itself. The stage would collapse under the weight of contradictory narratives. So Einstein made a choice. He concealed the final doorway. Not by lying, he was too honest for that, but by stopping, by leaving his work incomplete in a very specific way. He left behind general relativity, a theory that was brilliantly correct within limits while quietly diverting humanity away from the deeper mechanism. It became a masterpiece and a maze simultaneously. Accurate enough to function, incomplete enough to protect. A cosmic red herring, left like a trail of breadcrumbs leading away from the cliff's edge. Not to suppress knowledge forever. Einstein wasn't that arrogant, but to delay it. To buy humanity time. Time to grow up. Time to develop wisdom commensurate with its cleverness. He died in 1955, taking the final pieces of the puzzle with him. Some say his last words were in German, spoken to a nurse who didn't understand the language. Whatever he said vanished unrecorded. Perhaps that was intentional too. This might explain something that's puzzled us for decades: the Great Silence, the Fermi Paradox. If the universe is so vast and so old, where is everybody? Where are the alien civilizations, the radio signals, the megastructures, the signs of intelligence among the stars? We've assumed that advanced civilizations destroy themselves with war. Nuclear weapons, bioweapons, artificial intelligence run amok. But what if the real filter is subtler and more insidious? What if advanced civilizations don't destroy themselves with weapons? What if they destroy themselves with causality? Any sufficiently advanced species eventually discovers that gravity isn't merely a force but an access point to distance, to dimensions, to timelines. Most species fail the test. They gain the power to manipulate time before they gain the wisdom not to. They reach back, trying to fix their mistakes, trying to optimize their history, and in doing so they create paradoxes, contradictions, causal loops that unravel their entire timeline. They don't explode. They simply cease to have ever existed in a coherent way. They edit themselves out of reality's story. Perhaps the universe appears silent because the loud ones, the ones who broadcast their presence, who reached for the stars without caution, are the ones who found the forbidden door and walked through it before they were ready. The ones we might someday meet, if we meet anyone, are the quiet ones, the careful ones, the ones who learned restraint. Because here's the thing, the heart of this whole strange tale. There's a law, not a law written in any book, not enforced by any police, but a law nonetheless. A universal principle woven into the fabric of the stage itself. Time may be observed, but not violated. The flow of causality is sacred because it preserves coherence within the cosmic narrative. To rewrite the past is to wound reality itself, to introduce contradictions into the story that the universe is telling. Intelligent civilizations are permitted many technologies. Energy manipulation, sure, harness the stars. Interstellar travel, fine, spread among the worlds. Even dimensional engineering, accessing other layers of reality, risky but allowed. But unrestricted temporal interference? That threshold marks the boundary between intelligence and wisdom, between knowing how to do something and understanding why you shouldn't. It's not that time travel is impossible, it's that it's prohibited, not by force, but by consequence. The universe doesn't punish you for breaking causality. Breaking causality is the punishment. You don't get arrested. You get erased or trapped in paradox or scattered across contradictory timelines until you're less than a ghost. The prohibition isn't enforced by cosmic police. It's enforced by reality itself, the way jumping off a cliff is prohibited by gravity. You're free to try. Once. And now, here we are. Humanity, standing at the edge of that same forbidden door. We're assembling the pieces Einstein scattered. Artificial intelligence, learning to see patterns in data that human minds can't grasp. Quantum computing, manipulating superposition and entanglement. Field propulsion theories, emerging from classified research and fringe physics papers. Vacuum energy research, probing the ether without calling it that. Gravitational wave detection, learning to see spacetime's ripples. The fragments are reconnecting. Sooner or later, probably sooner, someone will finish the equation Einstein abandoned. Some graduate student burning the midnight oil. Some AI trained on physics papers. Some classified military project. The door will open. The question isn't whether humanity will gain the power to manipulate gravity and, through it, time itself. The question is whether humanity will become wise enough to survive possessing that power. Will we be like children who find their parents' gun? Or like adults who find a weapon and choose to lock it away? The test isn't about intelligence. We're clever enough. We've always been clever enough. We split the atom, mapped the genome, built machines that think. Cleverness isn't our problem. The test is about wisdom, about restraint, about understanding that some doors once opened can't be closed. about recognizing that the ability to do something doesn't create the obligation to do it. Every civilization reaches this moment. The quiet universe suggests most fail. But here's the final twist, the last turn of this strange tale. The creator, the playwright, the organizing intelligence, whatever you want to call it, never hid the truth from humanity. Humanity hid it from itself. Einstein's choice wasn't imposed from above. It came from within, from his own recognition of what we were ready for and what we weren't. The prohibition isn't enforced by external cosmic police. It's enforced by the consequences of our own actions, by the structure of causality itself. We are the universe experiencing itself. Remember, we're not separate from the cosmic story. We're part of it. Characters who are also authors, actors who are also audience. And the deepest secret of all, the one that makes this whole cosmology either profound or absurd, I can never quite decide, is that civilizations are only allowed to discover certain doors once they're mature enough not to kick them open. The knowledge protects itself, not through external barriers but through internal development. You can't see certain truths until you're ready to see them responsibly. The universe doesn't hide its secrets, it just makes them invisible to those who would misuse them. Einstein saw this. He understood that the equation for gravity manipulation would remain hidden, not because he concealed it, but because humanity would only be able to complete it once humanity had grown wise enough to handle it. His red herring wasn't a lock, it was a mirror, a test. When we're ready, if we become ready, the answer will seem obvious. We'll wonder how we missed it. The pieces will fall into place not because someone reveals them, but because we'll finally be able to see what was always there. And if we never become ready, then we'll never see it. We'll remain clever children playing with impressive toys, never quite grasping the deeper pattern. We'll build our rockets and our computers and our artificial minds, and we'll do impressive things, but we'll never touch the stage itself. Which might be for the best, because the universe is a story being performed into existence, and every story needs tension, needs obstacles, needs characters who struggle and grow. A story where the characters gain godlike power before they gain godlike wisdom is a tragedy. We've seen that play before. It doesn't end well. But a story where the characters learn restraint, where they choose wisdom over power, where they recognize that some doors should remain closed, that's a different kind of story. Rarer, more interesting. The stage is still there, beneath and around and within everything. The ether still hums with possibility. The playwright still writes reality into being, moment by moment. The dance between order and entropy continues, as it always has, as it always will. And we, clever, foolish, dangerous, beautiful humanity, we stand at the threshold, holding pieces of a puzzle that could remake reality itself. The question isn't whether we'll solve it. The question is what we'll do when we realize we already have. Will we kick the door open? Or will we set down the key and walk away, choosing the harder wisdom of restraint over the easier intoxication of power? I don't know the answer. I'm just a fool, telling stories, claiming cosmic knowledge I couldn't possibly possess. But I know this, the universe is watching, not judging, just watching, waiting to see what kind of story we'll tell, waiting to see if we're ready to understand that the greatest power isn't the ability to change reality, it's the wisdom to leave it alone.